Hello everyone, I'm Ophélie Renaud, postdoc at Paris-Saclay at SATI and at IRISA Rennes, but last month and also last 3 years I was a PhD here, and I co-supervise with Carole Desnos and Jean-François Neuzan, Ewan Michel, who are master students here, and today I will introduce his work. So this work was presented this week at Malta in a conference, and I will present it to you today. And so I will talk about GPU, radio astronomy. I will provide some results, and I will try to open some doors. The context of this work is the radio telescope SCAR. SCAR consists of antennas in South Africa and in Australia that capture sky signal and process them through a processing pipeline to generate output image. Algorithm and architecture are under development. This is why we aim to, as long-term objective, we aim to propose solutions that provide analysis before the final deployment. And the part which we are focusing is the part that converts voltages into visibilities. I will detail what is a visibility later. And so we aim to provide solutions that are reliable and efficient to meet the real-time constraints imposed by the SCAR. So to do so, we will improve rapid prototyping for GPU accelerated architecture. And so we aim to employ solutions that are both easy to use and efficient. So this is why we employ a graph-based algorithm architecture adaptation method, which consists in modeling both the application and the architecture as a graph, then apply some graph transformation to align this graph. This is the adéquation in French, which means matching in English, and the result is a parallel code. So in the application side, we employ the data flow graph. So it consists in a graph where node represent computation and that are also called actor in this graph. And the edge represents the FIFO buffer. The integer, an extension of the data flow is a synchronous data flow, and which integrates the integer on part of actor that indicates the rate of token consumed and produced by an actor, and an extension of this extension is a PSDF, which integrates the hierarchy. So an actor, instead of being specified by a standard C code, is specified by a subgraph. And this model is effective to represent several types of horizon. For example, task horizon is when several actors are can be executed simultaneously. For example, actor A and actor B, because they are independent, can run simultaneously. So this is suitable for an example, CPU target architecture. And another example is data horizon. Consists in executing several instances of the same actor simultaneously if there is enough data token at the input of this actor. For example, 2 instances of actor B can be executed simultaneously, and this is suitable for GPU target architecture. I will not detail the other horizon strategy, which is pipeline, because it's not we did not use this in our contribution. And for the in the architecture modeling, we use a system level model of architecture, and standard data flow resource allocation rely on the linear system level architecture model, which consists in modeling architecture with a graph composed of processing element, communication node, an undirected link, and properties. So this graph is useful. is employed to represent simple applications such as CPU, multi-core CPU target architecture, but it is not suitable for GPU target architecture that are composed of thousands of processing cells. And this is why some research with Maxime Pelka introduced a GPU-oriented system-level architecture model, which allow to represent internal parallelism, which is suitable for GPU-accelerated target architecture. So this model was theorized, but not fully integrated into any tool. So we leverage this and integrated into our tool. So, well, now that we have both the architecture and the application as a two graph, let's talk about matching. So matching consists in allocating resources, and the standard focus on CPU target architecture and involved in this step. So the first step is flattening, which consists in replacing all hierarchical actors by the subgraph, putting all the actors at the same level. The data transformation will reveal parallelism and communication node by duplicating each actor by the number of times they repeat at each graph iteration, and adding special actor to distribute or gather the tokens. Then the process proceeds by mapping, which consists in placing all the elements of the DAG on processing element. The schedule orders this element, and the timing associate start time and time to each element of the DAG. And then the process translates this graph, this element, into a parallel code. A major issue with this standard data flow resource allocation is the complexity. So here the axis represents the resource allocation time according to the number of actors in red, and the resource allocation time according to the number of processing elements in blue. And for both, the exponential trend is a problem. So we aim, so the method we propose aim to speed up resource allocation process to scale it up to GPU system. And we propose to automated code generation for GPU accelerated architecture. So our method is based on clustering, and I will explain what is this clustering process. So back to the standard resource allocation, the problem is that the standard resource allocation overexposes the parallelism. For example, here the parallelism of the actor B doesn't match the number of CPU core, which makes the application unnecessarily complex. So the principle of clustering is to simplify the graph, grouping actors together. For example, here the clustering process group together two actor B and one actor C into a single actor omega that repeats twice to preserve the graph consistency, and then the subsequent graph transformation are simplified, which facilitates the mapping, scheduling, and timing steps. But uncontrolled clustering leads to sequential application. And as a reminder, we proposed before configuration, which is the scale clustering method that aim to simplify the graph while preserving the necessary parallelism and focus only on CPU. So the method consists in identifying a particular pattern of actor, then isolate them in a subgraph, and match the repetition of the subgraph on the number of processing elements. Then we compute the schedule, and then we translate the subgraph into C code where the for loop represents the repetition of the internal actor of the subgraph, and the actor firing are translated into function call. Then we replace the hierarchical actor by this newly generated code, and then we perform the standard resource allocation with this simplified and optimized graph. But this method is limited to a multi-core CPU system. So this is where Ewen comes in. So the method he proposed is an extension of Scale and provide an heterogeneous code. So it consists in identifying particular pattern of actors, so especially the actors that are data parallel. So isolate them in a subgraph, and then we compute the offloading cost, which consists in evaluating the execution time of the subgraph running on CPU and running on GPU, and then we compute the time on GPU plus the communication to transfer the data to the CPU is faster than the time on CPU, and then based on that we map the cluster and produce the appropriate code, and then we perform the standard resource allocation on the same simplified graph. So just to take a look on the code, so Prism generates parallel code, and it relies on C file. Each C file corresponds to a CPU core that runs its own thread. Its C file contains a while loop, and this while loop contains a schedule actor that actor firing that are translated into a function call, and the threads are synchronized with pthread, and the instance of actor are synchronized with send and receive. And as I explained before, the cluster are also function call and contain the for loop for the repetition of internal actor, and contain the firing function call that are the actor firing. And so, well, now what happened with GPU offloading? So the offloading corresponds to a function call that is linked to a CUDA file, and it starts by transferring the data from the CPU to the GPU with a CUDA mem copy. Then function call actor firing correspond to CUDA kernel that is parameterized with the thread size and the thread size that is based on the buffer size. Then each kernel are synchronized with CUDA device synchronized. And then most of the time, CUDA mem copy transfers the memory from the GPU to the CPU and performs the rest of the code. But this method is so now I introduce some appending question. So we implement some solution to deal with limited. Okay. So when we talk with astronomers, the major issue is that they deploy application with huge amount of data, but they also deal with GPU that are limited with memory capacity. what do we do if the cluster memory exceed the memory of the GPU? So we implement some feature on Prism. So what we could do is to add another GPU, but which means that we require additional memcopy, and that have to be considered while offloading. Another solution could be to forbid the mapping on GPU if the total buffer size exceed the GPU memory. Or we also could partition mapping on CPU and GPU. All these solutions have been implemented into Prism, but are not part of the contribution I presented in the published contribution, but we just leave that under the carpet for you who want to deal with that. And so, well, now that we have the tool, let's talk about the applications that we deployed on GPU accelerated architecture, which is the DFX application use case. So back to the SCA pipeline. So the concept is the start signal will hurt an antenna and produce voltage difference. Then the first part of the pipeline will convert the voltage into visibility, which is a correlated point between a pair of antenna. And then the final step converts this visibility into output image. So the correlator is the use case of our method, and the imager is the purpose of my postdoc. But I will not talk about my postdoc, I will talk about the correlator. So the question is why antenna, and the answer is because interferometry. Okay. So why we use antenna is because the larger the telescope, the better you can distinguish objects on the sky. But because of logistic and the weight of a telescope, we can't just increase the size of telescope. So to simulate a larger telescope, we employ multiple antenna on an array to simulate a larger telescope. But because there is antenna, we have to deal with interferometry, and interferometry introduce additional challenge, like the delay between two telescopes. And because of the rotation of the Earth, is introduce some Doppler shift. So we have to deal with both of this problem to obtain a correlated point. I failed to represent something, so I will just skip this, but we have to produce a point. So I will talk about the main correlator used on the SCA radio telescope, which is DFX. And so the DFX, to employ DFX, we start by simulating voltage. So there is an existing Python scripts that generate a binary file that represents the voltage from antennas. Then, so the process is we read this file, then convert the integer in a complex that will reveal the delay and the phase shift. Then the French rotation is used to apply to deal with the Doppler shift and compensate the Earth's rotation. Then the FFT will transform the signal into several frequency into several frequency sample, and then the X is the correlation. So we correlate, we multiply all the frequency, and then the final step is the accumulation. So we connect each sample from the previous one to obtain the final visibility, and then we have Python script that converts back to voltages in order to compare if the correlator correlate well, and we compare the voltage with the input voltage that we configured manually to check if it works well. So the data flow is massively parallel, except for the computation that are related to with a file or reading file or a generated file that are sequential. And here are the results. So we compare the proposed method with the existing standard resource allocation method and with the native SCAPE method. And here are the results for the average reduction factor. When a number is greater than 1, we are happy. And here the result, we significantly reduce the size of the SRDAG, which is reflected to the acceleration of the resource allocation process. But these results are especially good because DieFix is a GPU-friendly application, but results would have turned to 1 comparing to the native SCAPE method on a memory-bounded application, as an example. And to produce code rapidly is good, but what happened on the application performance on the target? So here, the axis represents the implementation method compared to the execution time of a different implementation method. The green represents the GPU implementation, the red represents the CPU implementation, and the dark represents the data flow implementation. The lower the better, and we can see in green that optimized data flow implementation compete with manual one on GPU, particularly on GPU, but the reason, one reason that can explain the gap on CPU data flow implementation compared to manual one is that the data flow implementation introduces overhead because it requires additional actors to reveal parallelism that can be bypassed manually. And this work was presented at Malta this week. Yes, that's it. And to conclude, we provide a method that's automated for automated data flow resource allocation method and code generation for a heterogeneous CPU and GPU system. The method accelerates resource allocation and compete with manual implementation. The method is implemented into Prism and available on GitHub. A tutorial is available on Prism. Thanks to Ewen for the free ticket. And as a future work, I work on automating the refining of data flow application because This kind of application works well if the input granularity is fine at the input. When we talk with real astronomers, they say that they don't use CUDA. They don't have a CUDA in their laptop, but they are rich astronomers, so they all have a Mac, and they prefer work with Vulkan or Metal API. So that's all for this presentation. If you have a question.
You talk about the GPU-oriented system-level architecture model. How does that work to do the resource allocation? You said what you didn't do for memory, but how does this help compared to? You didn't give any detail on this that compared to the linear system-level architecture to see how you can map on this specific architecture.
We see element as a single element for GPU. So in that way, we can cluster all the application into one single entity, and then cluster the for loop that is later used on the resulting code. And also in this model, we also add features such as the memory. The memory of the GPU and additional feature such as the transfer, the speed, which is used to compute the offloading cost.
So you got the offloading cost with separated memory, and then for the GPUs, GPU is represented as a single resource which has many cores.
Yeah, so if you have two GPU, you have to model two elements.
Two elements, and those elements contain billion of course or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you don't map to individual resources, which means compared to the linear system-level architecture, it's for the resource computation resource is not that different. For the memory, it seems that you had something, but for the computation resource, it just...
We see the processing cell as a black box. And so we don't have optimized resource allocation within the GPU as we see it as one block.
What is the limit for the memory? You said that you are limited potentially by the amount of memory available in the GPU. How large can you go? How much data can you
It depends on each GPU, but because we deal with large application with a lot of memory, we have a lot of trouble with when deploying an application with a lot of data. So we just, for example, for the DieFix, we reduce as much as possible to have really simple with a few data to fit on his GPU on his laptop, but the memory depends, and this is why we integrate on the GSLA the way to check if a cluster can be mapped or not.
And if is Scape taking into account the amount of memory of the GPU when doing the clustering? For example, you have a very big data parallel. You have a very data parallel actor, which so if you clusterize everything, you have a big cluster with lots of internal parallelism, but also huge input about the buffers. Is it taken into account to clusterize the actors into smaller chunks, which are able to fit in the memory of the GPU? Or is it not done actually?
It's not done, but it's part of the pending contribution that we can do later, but we just see it and as a
Okay, so at the moment, if you have something that is data parallel, it's put into a big cluster and it must fit on the GPU.
yeah, we produce the code, and sometimes the code we just don't run because it.
It's too.
Yes. Right now, also for the GPU, we seem to have you're using the greedy the clustering approach, which is greedy, clustering actor per actor to map. You see some limitation compared to considering the wall graph and saying, oh, I want, because right now you've got, for example, 2 actors, and you're going to cluster them and then transfer back.
Yeah.
But maybe 4 actors could run one after the other on the GPU.
Yeah.
Could you match this kind of patterns with the clustering, with 2 different clusters that you then cluster again?
Yeah, I think this strategy we didn't check that because the pipeline we employ was like really simple, so it works that way. But I think we could extend some cluster, but it requires additional consideration. Like a pattern cluster.
Very basic question on your result on the slide 21. It was not clear for me which method was the one that you presented because they are all.
The one we presented is this one with the GPU implementation, and here is a CPU. No. Here is a CPU data flow, so the previous one. So the
okay, because it's the worst. So
yeah.
So that's what you started from. Is that right?
I don't get your point.
I look. Oh, your result should be the data flow. So I look. Oh, it's the worst. That's strange. So what is the result of the GPU data flow, not the CPU data flow, right?
Basically, the worst is indeed the data flow with the CPU because you have some overhead. Basically, you have the data flow representation of the application, you generate the code for the CPU, and it's not as good as the one that was written manually because it was already optimized. And yeah, manual C code and manual FX4 are more optimized manually than the data flow generated one.
But it's an expected result that data flow provide a bad result compared to manual one, but data flow produce a code in a few seconds. Manual one requires like a month or a year to implement a solution. So this is compromised.
Plus, we know that some things that we know where we are losing time. We know that there are some things in the automatically generated data flow that is not properly managed. If I remember, there are some issues with the memory and some useless operations are generated. We know how to optimize them, but not when using the clustering method. Basically, some of the things that we did previously for this specific scenario had to be deactivated in some part of the code that is currently generated. So we know what to do to regain and probably have performance that are on par with the manual implementation, but this remains to be done and we need some manpower to. But yes, it's worse.
Okay. Yeah, so you're not showing a comparison with a previous less developed solution.
No.
Est-ce que je dois la poser en là aussi?
Non,
C'est juste sur la slide d'avant,
oui.
Sur les résultats. J'ai pas tout à fait compris comment tu présentes les résultats. C'est du coup les chiffres qu'on voit dans le petit tableau, c'est du speed-up et du temps. Donc 93, c'est le speed-up.
Donc là, 93, c'est on réduit de 93 la taille du SRDAG.
93% ou un facteur 93?
D'accord, c'est ça.
Et l'allocation, c'est quoi?
Le temps d'allocation, bah, c'est la même chose, c'est le temps.
C'est un temps, ça.
Oui, c'est un temps.
Et du coup, c'est la réduction. Non, c'est un temps.
C'est un facteur, enfin, c'est, on réduit
C'est pas trop, c'est un
de,
temps.
on réduit de 58 000 fois.
Et N, du coup, c'est le modèle que toi tu présentes.
N, c'est nous,
Ouais.
et là, c'est eux. Et moi, enfin,
Any other question online or in the room? Otherwise, thank you again for the presentation.
Non, pas de questions pour moi.
Moi, j'ai
Merci.
peut-être une question.
Oh non!
Oh non. Je sais plus sur quel slide c'était, mais j'ai cru comprendre qu'à un moment, tu comparais le temps nécessaire pour exécuter un acteur sur le GPU et le transfert des données du CPU au GPU versus le temps que ça prendrait de l'exécuter sur CPU. C'est des temps qui sont estimés, j'imagine, et comment ils sont estimés?
en fait, en amont de Prism, on fait tourner les applications surtout sur GPU et sur CPU. Donc, c'est des temps pire cas. On prend le temps moyen de chaque acteur. Le temps moyen de chaque acteur qui tourne sur CPU et GPU. Donc, en gros, ça demande 2 déploiements techniquement, en fait.
Ah d'accord, ok. C'est une donnée d'entrée, ok.
Oui,
Ok, merci.
merci pour la question.
Est-ce qu'il y a